we're going to start first with a bit of a time of worship and reflecting that is being led by our fearless leader, Joanne. So Joanne, thanks for being here, and we'll turn things over to you to start.
Okay. Wait, I've got to. I hope it's so. Can you see that?
Yes.
For such a time as this?
We can, yep.
Okay. Just
and
hang on
it's
1 second.
Yeah, it's in present, like it's the way it should be.
Yeah, okay, hang on.
Yeah, it's perfect.
All right, well, hopefully I can figure out the rest. I don't know about you, but the last few weeks have felt kind of heavy for me. A lot of it has to do with the American election, and because you're not my congregation, I can say right out, this is not the outcome I was hoping for. I think most Canadians are in that. But as time has gone by, it just seems to be getting worse. And so it's leaving me unsettled. I think we are in unsettled times. And also, it's just a reminder that in Canada, we're probably heading to an election soon, and we have not quite as drastic, but similar dynamics here. And that has me worried. And I feel uncertain about what's happening in our lives personally and in the church. Where are we headed? What's our future? What's our place in this unfolding story of grace that we continue to be a part of? And so I was thinking about that and about our time of worship, and that line from the book of Esther came to me, which it often does. You were made for such a time as this. And so I think maybe we also are created for such a time as this, or if we're not created for it, we're found ourselves in a time such as this. And if we are in that space and we are called to be the people of God, then really who are we to reject that call or say no? So we're going to start with a song. You might want to mute yourselves. This is Linnea Good's Who Am I to Say No? Let's see.
We're not getting any sound. You're also muted, but I see that you've figured out you need to click the share sound.
Yes, they moved it and they changed it. So here we go again. And can you hear it now?
Yes.
Sorry.
So that you
So we'll begin with a kind of call to worship and response prayer. I'm just going to ask if you mute your Zoom thing, and maybe Treena, just you can read what is black and I'll read the kind of blue.
Thank you.
Creator, ancient wisdom, divine presence, we gather as your people.
We gather in times that are troubled.
We gather in times that are heavy and laden with uncertainty.
We gather in times when it seems foolish to hope.
Yet even as we are feeling unmoored, you are still there.
Even as the future is unclear, you continue to call us to a better world.
Perhaps even here in this time, we are not without a choice.
Even here, when the headwinds are so strong, there is light on the horizon.
And even though building a better world, a better church is not without challenges,
we know that we are stronger together.
Rouse us from our lethargy, born of disappointment.
Bring us alive to what you are trying to birth among us.
Give us courage to confront injustice, wisdom as we dream of a different way.
And strength to create your future for us. Amen.
Amen. So as I said, I was thinking about that story of Esther, and I'm not going to read the whole one to you. There's some really interesting things about the Esther story. One is that apparently God is not mentioned in the story. It seems quite secular. It's in the scripture because of the relationship to Purim, which is a Jewish holiday, but also that she, as a woman at that time, is central to the story and to the salvation of the people is also another interesting thing about the Esther story. You know the background. I think her parents have died, and she has been raised by Mordecai, and the king has a wife who refuses to do what he wants, and so he gets rid of her and chooses Esther after a competition. He chooses Esther as his wife, and so she is in the palace, and her uncle Mordecai, who has raised her, is a prophet outside, and one of the powerful people wants to get rid of the Jewish people, and there is a decree to kill the Jewish people. And so Mordecai pleads to Esther, do something. And she says, you know, like, he hasn't called me into his presence in 30 days. And if I go in, I could die, is what she sends back to him. And then he responds to her. When Mordecai heard Esther's reply, he wrote back the following response: don't fool yourself into thinking that just because you are in the imperial palace, you will be the only Jewish person to escape. If you insist on remaining silent at this time, vindication and liberation will come to our people through another source, but both you and your family will surely die. Who's to say? You may have come into the royal court for just this moment. I was looking through the gathering worship, and this is an excerpt from a monologue that was written by Beverly Brazier, who we know well, and it comes towards the end of the monologue. It's an excerpt, which I'll share with you. When you live in the shadow of a previous wife, a wife gone wrong, what you have to be most of all is not her. I was not so much Queen Esther as I was not Queen Vashti, defined not by who I was, but who I was not. Not pushy, not opinionated, not embarrassing to the crown. Vashti had disobeyed, and so as the new queen, the good queen, I had to be first and foremost obedient. It wasn't hard. I had no inner core, nothing that a life of obedience could tarnish. When the best of you is damaged or asleep, You have no light by which to measure the thin and fading trail that once was you. No way to follow the breadcrumbs home. Ah, but they do lead home. And even though the birds come to eat them up among the silent rocks, enough remain. I'll tell you how this happened for me. It seems so ordinary now. It should have been thunder and lightning, heavenly drumroll, a voice from above, but great moments are hardly ever that way, are they? This is part of what I had to discover. Holy moments come in the midst of uncertainty, when the dishes aren't even done. They are ordinary, and they arrive when your apron is covered with dough and the birds have landed on your clothesline, and now you have to do the laundry all over again. At breakfast one morning, I discovered that there was a plot to kill all the Jewish people. That was it. Simple and as earth-shaking as that. Mordecai came to tell me. Earlier that morning, the clasp on my necklace had to be fixed, and just as Mordecai told me the news, one of the servants brought it back to me. I fastened it, and it lay at my throat, like a cool finger taking the pulse that beat there, insistent and alive. I finished my melon. I put the spoon down on a purple tile, there to protect the fine linen cloth. Melon stains are hard to wash away. I poured tea for Mordecai. Ordinary actions on an ordinary day, a day when there was a plot by one of our own palace officials to kill all Jewish people. All of this seemed to take place in slow motion. It really lasted only the briefest of moments, and that moment, the moment when my uncle told me of this wickedness, my friends, that is the moment I came home to myself. I knew I was part of something, and that I had an opportunity to make a difference, to stand for once, not in the gloom of guessing and fear, but in the full sunlight of my own power. Mordecai said that I had been created for such a time as this, that God had placed me here in order to prevent this massacre. I have to tell you that I still don't believe that. I cannot believe in a God who controls each detail of human life and who manipulates history like a puppeteer. However, I do know this. When I was presented with this choice, I understood in some primal way that this was who I am, to whom I belonged, and that now was my time to act, and I did. I stepped forward with my power preceding me, and I saved my people. What or who was it that I felt part of at that moment? I have thought of this so often since, a sudden blossoming of my blood that let me know I was now and forever one of God's chosen. Or was it the splashing of a river of compassion that had been there in me all along, bathing me in the knowledge that when any group of God's people are in danger, that is where I belong? I still don't know. Maybe both are true. Perhaps they flow together, circles within circles. I only know this, that in that moment, all my questions about the past and the future were brought into sharp focus in the light of a very present human need. And for now, that is enough. I don't understand everything. I know I never can. That is what used to keep me from faith. But now this is what gives me hope. I don't know why I am here. I don't know if it was fate or divine intervention or coincidence, but I do know that I had the chance to act for life, and I did. You know the story. I need not expand on the details. That real miracle of my story is not that the Jewish people were saved, although this is something for which I am eternally grateful. No, the real miracle of my story is that I was a woman with no identity who found herself when it mattered most. I now have a new view. I can't see everything at once. I can never know the whole truth nor understand the ways of the world and their complexity. And I know that when I choose to look intently at one thing, there is a whole world I am excluding by my focused gaze. That this window, this part of the world, framed by my opportunity and experience, is the most precious thing in all the world and deserves my deepest, most loving gaze. This is the bittersweet pain of human existence. And so I've come to believe that in the end, we are where we are. There is no reason why. There is only opportunity after opportunity to speak the truth or not. In the end, I am the old woman who at the end of each day patiently puts the baby birds back together so that little girls may wake to their new song. I know that we as people, as communities of faith, as a denomination, are wondering what's next for a variety of reasons. I'd be lying if I said I'm 100% confident everything will work out. I mean, I love that phrase from the Best Marigold Hotel where it says, everything will work out in the end. If it hasn't worked out, it's not in the end. And I kind of cling to that. But sometimes I have this doubt that it will. What I do know is that we may not have been born for such a time as this, but we are living in such a time as this. And as the people of God, we have before us a vision of what the world could be. It's been laid out to all the people of God from the beginning of time. I think sometimes we've been comfortable for too long. We're like Esther before the choice, defined by what we are not, easy to get along with, able to accommodate so much, coasting along. And I fear that time is coming to an end. And we have some choices to make as individuals and as a community. Some of us will be like Esther, with access to power whose choices could change the world. But most of us are in that mass of humanity. They're at the mercy of the powers and the principalities of which Paul speaks. But even we, when the time comes, in such a time as this, will be called to find ourselves and move in ways that will save the people. I think our future is wrapped up in our call as the United Church of Canada. Deep spirituality, bold discipleship, daring justice. This must shape our future as individual communities of faith and together as the region, because we are stronger together. It will be those communities of faith that will be the anchor for people in the world that is unmoored. We have been taught that all this must be done in love. And we know that love can change the world. And we know that when our love is shared, it multiplies. And we know that when we act as one, love wins. So may we find courage to confront such a time as this with love and unity and purpose.
We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. And we pray that all unity may one day be restored. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, they will know we are Christians by our love. each other, we will walk hand in hand. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand. And together we'll spread the news that God is in our land. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. Each other, we will work side by side. We will work with each other, we will work side by side. And we'll guard each man's dignity and save each man's pride. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. By our love, by our love, by our love, they will know we are Christians by our love. All praise to the Father from whom all things will come, and all praise to Christ Jesus, his one and only Son, and all praise to the Spirit who makes us all as one. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. Oh, they will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love. They will know we are Christians by our love, by our love, oh, by our love. They will know that we are Christians by our love.
May it be so. Amen.
Thank you, Joanne, for that very powerful message. Going to turn things over to Shari. And Shari, we're very grateful for you being here with us today. And Shari's going to talk to us a bit about the experience of being a regional rep and a volunteer in the wider church. So we're excited that you're here to offer this leadership with us today. So thank you, Shari.
Thank you and welcome everyone. I've shared my screen trying to take us back to May and added in here the words that we just heard at the end of that reflection: love, unity, and purpose. As I begin to talk and just share a little bit of something I recently did that raised some further curiosity for me about our role as representatives of our communities of faith with the region. I just want you to kind of look at this image, and in the chat box, if you could put down some key words that you remember feeling or experiencing when we were together in person in Calgary for the regional gathering. So just populate that chat box with some thoughts. Earlier in November, I was asked to present to our AOTS group at Gaetz Memorial as one that serves, which at Gaetz Memorial is a co-ed group, but is also a fairly traditional group. They are some of the eldest of our congregation that still gather to potluck once a month and have a guest speaker and continue some of that tradition of AOTS. Why I said yes to speaking was because I was very curious for their awareness of all of the change that has happened around the United Church in the last few years. Because so much of our communication is now electronic, I wanted to touch base with those who most likely are kind of out of the loop, to gauge their awareness and to offer a presentation in person, verbally, and offer that update to them. And so what I did to prepare that was I went into the Chinook Winds website. So one of the things, I became a rep right from the beginning of the presbyteries shifting to regions. I was a presbytery rep for a very short time before that. So my depth of experience with representing to the wider church has really only been in the regional context. Anyway, so before I show what I did, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to run a poll. So I've put together, one of the first things I asked when I shared that screen with the AOTS participants, one of the first questions I asked was, when you see that topic, participating in the wider church, what words come to mind? And I asked people on a yellow sticky note that I put on the table, I said, on that yellow sticky note, just put down some words about what that phrase, participating in the wider church, means to you. And the first one that I read was, why? Others said things like volunteering. It means work. Dealing with was another interesting one. It means connections. It means communication. It means governance. So there were some words that they put. And then I'll share at the end of my presentation some of the words that they said on a different colored Post-it note at the end of my presentation. So it has me curious for a few things. So I'm going to run a couple of polls. The first poll is to get a sense of who's in the room and how we have experienced onboarding into regional rep, and a little bit of what we've done as regional reps with our congregations. So I think I'm launching the correct one. So on your screen will come a poll live with some questions, and then I'll show the results at the end. So there are 6 questions. Hopefully people are working their way down through all of them. I'm going to give just another couple of seconds. We've had about a little over half participate. Wait till it gets to 70%. And then I'll end it. It's not critical that everybody participate in this, but curious questions. If you didn't see all of the questions, it's because you just need to scroll down on the right-hand side, or with your mouse, it'll scroll down through them. Okay, so I'm going to end it and share the results. So hopefully you're seeing, and you could probably control this yourself, perhaps, to scroll down. I'm not sure if it's in my control. So orientation hasn't been everybody. Submitting a report, yes, sometimes. I did also ask a question about willing to share that. We can talk about that a little bit more later. So is our work as regional reps showing up in our annual reports, is essentially that question. And if they aren't, what might we do to help bolster that? If we have a question about the church, we know how to get in touch with people with Chinook Winds region. That was pretty positive. Felt supported, called to support the wider church. We are here because of that call. And then aware of how we could get involved with more. Nice to see lots of people know and understand that. And then in terms of who's on the call, we're about half and half of regional rep and minister and a few others. Thank you. So the other poll that I'm going to post is, if I can find my way to it, back. I have to click back. There we go. So it got me thinking, and how I opened my presentation with AOTS was asking that question, what one word comes to mind, which is also the start of this. But I also asked for a raise of hands around a few other things. And so these are examples of survey questions that we as reps may want to ask of our communities of faith. So that one word of what thought comes to mind about participation in the wider church is the first question. This poll has 9 questions. So as you're able to, we don't have to spend too much time on this. I did ask, do you receive the Broadview magazine or not? And there were only a couple of people in the room at that point that did. Do you receive the emailed newsletters from Chinook Winds region? Have you visited the website for Chinook Winds region with the options of I do often, once or twice I have, I've never or not yet. In the past, did you ever serve as a rep to presbytery was a question I asked, and there were only 2 or 3 people that had played that role in the past. Do you know who your representative is or are, if you have more, to Chinook Winds region, and understand their role and why involvement with community of faith with the wider church is important and valuable? How often does General Council of the United Church of Canada meet was a question that I, just for that kind of awareness of the rhythm and function of the wider church. And then I challenged with, do you know about the 100th anniversary? And where will the next General Council meeting be? So those are the questions. I see some people working their way through them. So we'll give a minute just to see what the results might be. Here. These are more so questions that I asked as the presenter of members of my community of faith. Okay, so I'll end the poll and just share the results for the few that got through. We only had 40% finish. Sorry if I've cut you off. I do have a copy of that poll as a Google form that I could send to you if anybody is curious to say, oh, like a starting place. And then maybe we do want to ask some of these kinds of questions of our wider congregation. So I just wanted to share this as an example of the types of questions that I asked in the room before I did my presentation. Okay, so then what did I present? What I presented was I went to the Chinook Winds website. Just let me find my sharing here again. And just a short reflection first. When I became regional rep in 2019 and the region formed, we met in person in Lethbridge. Journey back. And then the pandemic hit. And so the next two times we gathered for annual meetings online. Amazing keynote speakers, so much learning and gathering, and yet it was all online. When I look back at my notes that I took and my memories and my learnings from those times together online, I have way more notes. I have way more references, partially because I was at my computer and I took notes and I know where they are. It's interesting that since then we've met 3 times in person. We were here in Red Deer, and then we were in Medicine Hat, and then last time we were in Calgary. And so as we meet in person, but the lovely thing is all of those since the pandemic have also been hybrid, in that live stream means there's a record, and so there are videos to look back at. So what I did, as I tried to think about what stood out to me about May, how do I share with my community of faith highlights of the work of the wider church and how we as representatives do that? I thought, well, I remember 2 things in particular that stood out to me in May. One was a panel discussion that was really profound and asked some good questions and showed some of the diversity and flavor of ministries within the region and some of the faces and people and voices. And the other one that really stood out to me was our United Church of Canada has a strategic plan. And Jennifer shared that with us. And so what I did is I came in here to the website and I went to the regional meeting, which was an event. And I made my way down here to know that our YouTube live streams are available to us. And so all of those recordings are there. So when you click on here, and then it's the question. And so I did also go and find where's the agenda and when did these events happen and where might I find that little clip of a video. And so one of the things I did share was Jennifer's presentation about the, why is my screen sharing paused? I don't know. No, that's in my way. How do I move it? There we are. So I did find that clip and shared just that 10-minute clip of, you know, the work of the wider church, the United Church of Canada's strategic plan, and what the growth animators are doing, and, you know, just kind of introduce some of those concepts. The other thing that I shared, I'll just show you, is try to come back to this. From the Glimmers of Glory event, there is this photo gallery. So I also came in and just shared some of the pictures and showed. And so these are right here available on the website. One of the things I experienced, because I was projecting this on the big screen, these pictures come up only this way and I had to manually move them. They weren't really large. It was hard for people in the room to see. I've spoken with Shelley a little bit about, like, maybe as a photo gallery. I do know that I can right click on any of these and save the image and then create my own slideshow. So I just wanted to highlight, you know, it was helpful for people to see some of the spirit of how we met and the sense of the numbers of people that met. And then another highlight that I shared was the pictures of the Sunday morning worship and all of those who entered ministry in the church service that Sunday morning. So as I look now to the words that you put on those on that, in the chat book about connection and fellowship and cohesion, excited and glad to see friends, the tremendous hospitality. What an honor it is to serve and represent a community of faith to the region. I wonder how often and how are we at liaising that information back to our communities of faith? And with that added concern that as so much of the communication is electronic now, are people receiving it? And are they hearing it and are they understanding it? So that little presentation workshop that I did, just showing some of the images, talking a little bit about my role as a rep, the honor that it is to represent people and be there, and some of the key messages that I thought came out of this. One of my other curiosities is how might we support one another in this work of representing our congregations as we think about sharing messages back to people? And what ways do we do that in effective ways, right? We probably write into newsletters. We talked about the annual report in the survey. I wonder about, I've written into the annual report. Why don't I share that with other reps and say, here's a starting point. Like, here's an example of me writing, and so that we don't all have to write our own. We could kind of share templates, that sort of thing. So what I wanted to do at this point is send us out randomly into some breakout groups where you could have a chance to talk about how you liaise this information back into your communities of faith, what works, what doesn't. And in order to do more presentation type things, what kind of support you might need. Because the information's all there. Recordings, pictures, newsletters that celebrated what we did. We meet monthly in these town halls, and what ways do we continue to dabble into understanding of the whole work of this incredibly democratic, and the work gets organized by the people doing it, faith community that we're a part of. So give me one moment while I prepare some breakout rooms. We are 37 people, so I'm gonna do those into some, and they're just gonna be random, so I don't know who you end up with. But take just kind of 5 minutes to talk, 5-6 minutes to talk in small groups about how might we as reps and ministers support one another to take the information and work of the wider church back into our communities of faith so they understand kind of that space. So hopefully my question's clear, and look forward to hearing what you talk about in your small groups. There we go. Thank you. Welcome back. It's such a quick cutoff, isn't it? All right, so in the chat, if there's a couple of key things that came to mind, was it helpful to share with one another a bit of what we are doing and talk a little bit about that hard thing? Like, I know even in my work life, it's hard to go away to something, representing your staff team, and then come back with like, what do I give them back, right? So in the chat, if you want to jot down some advice or thoughts, I will show you on the screen, just if you're curious, the clip about the strategic plan of the United Church of Canada. Am I sharing the right thing? Ooh. Yes. Was on Friday afternoon. If you go to the videos, you have to search for it. But it was on Friday afternoon from 1:17 to 1:28. So about a 10-minute clip where she shares some of the work of the wider church strategically and that commitment to growth. Here are the words at the end of my presentation when I asked comparatively from the beginning. what it meant to be involved or participate in the wider church. The words that people put were involvement, informative, guidance, support. There was a suggestion that I should include an update presentation at the AGM, that the wider church is about good work. I was thankful that our United Church is being progressive with building our numbers. A hopeful future, good to hear about all this, and also overwhelming. So lots of information there. Thought very quickly as well that I would show, as so much information is electronic, there is the ability for the updates that come to us. So I did look at past issues of Shelley's Great Communications up. She did a regional meeting recap, and here's a copy of how it comes out to us. So it comes as this newsletter. There is the ability, when you open this, there's 3 little dots on the right-hand side of your browser. If you click on that and then click on print.
Shari, we're just still seeing the sticky notes.
Oh, sorry. I will go to a different share. Sorry. Okay, stop this. So here, I went back to the newsletter that was shared about the regional meetings. This is how it looks. You'll see that it's live with links, and that's how we experience it. One of the things you lose by printing this is you lose the links. But if you at least wanted to share a copy of this in print, 3 little dots on the top right-hand corner, if you click on that and then click on print, it'll come up, and on my computer, it defaults as save as a PDF. If you save it as a PDF somewhere, then you can send it to a printer and actually print it and have a printed copy of that newsletter. So it's not ideally, like, it's not fancy, it's got a little bit of messy, but the content is still there. So I just wanted to show that because another way that we need to be trying to make sure information is available is maybe in ways other than electronic as well. So presentations, printing the newsletters, as that's possible, and then any other ideas that you might have that we can discuss about in the future. That is my time. Over to who's next.
Thank you, Shari, for volunteering to share your experience and some of your best practices as a regional rep. We really appreciate it. And to Shelley for organizing and arranging this. It's appreciated. And just before we wind up, Michelle from Leadership just wants to give a bit of information about some opportunities that are available to you all.
I lost my mouse, my cursor. Hey, everybody. Very blessed cusp of Advent to you. I know many ministry personnel are head down and ready to roll into this next beautiful and demanding season of the year. And so I just wanted to let you know about a couple of offerings that perhaps can take some of the work off of your plate, or at least give you some assistance and your own personal feeding and nourishment. So the first is that I hope that you've seen the announcement about the free Advent small group study through the Prayer Bench with Janice McLean. This is a 3-week small group study. It is completely planned out, including opening, closing, prayers, suggested discussion topics. There's also resources online, including videos. And so if you are thinking, I hadn't planned an Advent study, but maybe I will see if there are a few people interested, then do be in touch with me at Leadership, or you can see Shelley has just popped it into the chat, a link to it. Second, I want to make sure that you have on your calendar our joint town hall for Advent, which is Wednesday, December 11th at 2 p.m. Mountain Time. And we are going to have a guest preacher, Reverend Dr. Hiran Kim Cragg, who is the principal and preaching professor at Emmanuel College in Toronto. So we're really lucky to have her, and she's going to be preaching on the lectionary text for the following Sunday. So if you're feeling squeezed that week, you might get some inspiration and ideas, I hope. And then finally, once you're on the other side of this season, ministry personnel, please do know how warmly you are invited and encouraged to take part in the ministry personnel retreat. It's heavily subsidized by the region and by leadership. It is February 9th to 12th. So it's a Sunday night to a Wednesday, I think, ending at lunch. It's at Sanctum Retreat Center, which is sort of west of Red Deer. It's a beautiful location with lots of trails. We're going to rent snowshoes. We're going to have a beautiful time with our guest facilitator, Reverend Ribbons Harris, from a group called the Parsonage Project in the US, which focuses on the emotional and vocational and spiritual health of clergy. So it's only $250 for a single room, $200 for a shared. Please do check out the link that Shelley has put in the chat. Thanks.
Yeah, and I would just add to that as lay folks, regional reps, it's your job to encourage your clergy to attend and to encourage the congregation to support that attendance because it's really important to the health of communities of faith that you have healthy leaders. Joanne, did you want to say a word about this as well?
Yeah, this whole idea of we're stronger together and we need to work together and know what's going on in the region and all that. I'm really hoping, and I am looking forward to connecting with clergy and other ministry personnel in a way where we can just sort of talk and form relationships that hopefully will help us in our work going forward. So just really encourage all you folks in leadership in the churches to sign up and be part of that retreat. I think it could be the beginning of something beautiful. That's it.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here, and we really appreciate this opportunity to gather, and I really do encourage you to come to our Advent worship online, and especially for those of you who are in leadership, you spend so much time focusing on the worship leadership that you're offering to others. We really want to offer you the gift of being led in worship yourselves as well. Thank you all for being here, and look forward to seeing you when we next gather. Blessings.